So today we are going to look at the three elements that make up an effective public speaking encounter. And I've summarized these in 3V's. Number one, verbal. Now, this is about what you say, the content and the composition therein, the choice of words, the grammar, the knowledge, the skills, the quotes, everything that you are going to say makes up the verbal facet. But I want you to remember, although this is very, very, very important to communication, because it's what you're communicating, it only contributes 7% when it comes to the effectiveness of public speaking. That is why sometimes you get professors who have a lot of knowledge, but when they start speaking in like 3 minutes, you've lost them, or they have lost you. You can't follow them. That is if you don't sleep or doze off or walk away or go on your phone. Sometimes in your churches, there are those speakers or there are the preachers who do not have the in-depth of scripture, the in-depth of Quran, but when they are speaking, you feel what they're talking about, you feel it. Remember, communication is more about how you make people feel than what you say. So that is why verbal only contributes 7% of the whole communication encounter. Now that takes us to number 2, which will explain to us why someone would have good content, good knowledge to share, but it's not effective. The message has not been received as intended. And that is vocals. The second V is vocals. Now, vocals is about what we hear. You may say something else, but we hear something else. You may say you're happy, but we hear sadness. You may say you're confident, but in your voice we hear nerves. You may say you are tired, but in your voice we feel energy. So what we hear is different from what you say. So your job is to make sure that what you say is what we hear. So now this is about the variations in your voice. Other people call it your voice projection, others call it intonation, and so on. It comes back to variation in your pitch. You see, there's a time when I say something like that, and there's a time when I speak at comfort, and there's a time when I go so deep, and there's a time when I'm just flat. Now that's a different pitch. Now it's about the high or the low notes of your voice. And then the second thing under voice variations is tonations. Now, tonation is about the emotional signals that we pick from your voice. And that is why sometimes we say, you sound angry, you sound happy, you sound tired. It's not that someone has said he's tired, but you sound disappointed. You sound excited. Someone has not told you that he's excited, but we can hear the excitement. So that's why I told you what you say and what we hear is different. It's about what comes and how it comes out. The third variation is pace. Now this is about the speed at which you speak. You realize when I'm talking about something that I want to emphasize, I actually use a low pace. But when I'm speaking on something that I'm sure you can follow, that even if you don't hear the exact syllables I'm saying, you understand what I was saying, then I use a little bit a fast speed. But also the pace depends on the group of people that you're talking to. When I'm speaking online, I try to use a low speed or pace because I realize most of my audience is from Africa, and especially countries like Somalia, South Sudan, Ethiopia. Some of the people in those tribes, English is a third language. They have their local language, they speak Arabic, and then English comes as a third language. So when I'm speaking, I consider them. But at a certain point, you have also to speed up, not to be on one variation of speed from beginning to the end. And lastly, volume. How you go high and go low. When you say from Africa to Asia, from Asia to America, from America to North America, we are going to rise and stand up for our rights. So it is about the variation in both your pitch, your speed, which we call the pace, your tonation. But when you want to become now an orator from just a good speaker, you also have to master rhythm. I'm sure some of you who follow Pierre Olumumba know that he has a particular rhythm. When he starts speaking, he will say something like, when I look at Africa, some questions come to my mind. I ask myself, what would happen if Kwame Nkrumah Patrice Emile Lumumba were to rise up and see what is happening? For they will be confronted with an Africa where the Democratic Republic of Congo is at war. South Sudan, the youngest nation in Africa, the Nuer have risen against the Dinka. Africa is at war with herself. He has a different tonation. It's as if, or rhythm, it's as if it's poetic. So when you want now to come from just a speaker to an orator, a master of speech, you also have to adopt a particular rhythm. Then lastly, of the three elements of public speaking or effective public speaking is visual. It is the third V, visual. Now visual is about what we see. Now I said we have verbal contributes 7%, vocal, what we hear, contributes 38%, and visual is about what we see. What we see. You may say you're excited, but we see boredom. You may say you're happy to see us, but we see indifference. You may say, let's go, but you look like you're going to stay. So visual is the most important facet when it comes to public speaking, and that's why it contributes 55% to the effectiveness of communication. And this is about your body language. Now, in body language, I always classify it into three. Number one is your facial expression. If you're talking about excitement or happiness, let's see it. If you're saying you're sad, let's see it. Now, after facial expression, there's body posture. And that's why I did this. Body posture communicates your confidence. You imagine when you're speaking like this and you tell us, I am so excited. No! So facial expressions, body language, because with body language, it also depends on how you look, your first impressions, and then your posture. Do you look like you're confident? The last facet on body language is hand gestures. You cannot tell us it was this big. We shall all wonder, what are you talking about? I went to this party, it was so big, it was this big. I couldn't believe how big this party was. Yes, the voice actually seems to express how big something is, but the body language seems to suggest something else. So you may end up sounding sarcastic or a joker. So I would rather say it was this big and I couldn't believe how big this event was. In the comments below, please tell me what you have learned or summarize what you've learned. I would appreciate if you also repost and like. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.